All right, now back to Superman. Let me pull this up. Okay, so as I said, right, bro, it's been really weird with Superman because fans have been super pissed about Superman through every step, through the casting, the costumes, the looks, the quotes, the tweets. We have seen a big divide in our fandom over the Superman film, and it seems like after the Superman extended look, right, we have seen fans become more and more excited with Superman, and it does seem like a lot of fans that were negative, not saying that all of them, but some of them are turning and they're ready to give Superman a chance. So I wanted to ask you, number one, did you expect fans to possibly turn and start to actually expect Superman to be good, or or was it something that even shocked you?
I don't really see a change in the hype for Superman. I think it's been like this from day one. I really do. I think that most people are really hyped for this movie. I think that the more time you spend on Twitter, you're going to run into, the Snyder cult. But I do think that other than like that weird corner of the internet, everyone is super hyped for this movie. The hype for this movie just feels different than anything else out there.
I agree, bro. I agree. And, you know, at least off of my side of the internet and people that I have talked to, like I have this little like super chat where I talk to like some of my friends from childhood, and a lot of them were down in Superman until which is so shocking that it takes you having to see the Fortress of Solitude to sell you a Superman, but whatever. But
Yeah.
I do believe that, bro, to a degree, we could see the Robert Pattinson Batman all over again, which is where fans literally trashed Pattinson so hard, and then they lightened up once they saw the movie, and now people like view the Batman as one of the best Batman films of all time. But I do want to first, bro, I want to give Corenswet props because he is taking the heat, and when he was asked about it, he said that he expected it and that he has thick skin. Because I do feel like a lot of actors, definitely in our space, they don't have thick skin, and they do respond back in ways that I don't think is very professional. And I also think that what makes fans super comfortable with Superman right now is that they know that this project, bro, is being handled with love and care, right? And the reality is that fans have Superman and Batman trauma. So the reality is, bro, is that people will always rise over topics like Batman and Superman and stuff like that. But I do feel like James Gunn kept trucking along, and he gave us great visuals with great comic accuracy, and it seems like every decision that they've made so far has been heavily thought of. And I was reading an article kind of trying to study up, and the one, bro, I didn't know that James Gunn got offered Superman a while ago and he turned it down because he didn't know what story to use, and he waited until he found an actual story to make a go at it. And it just shows you that like he's not doing this just for a dollar, but he actually wants to tell a really good story. And like, if that doesn't sell you on someone that's trying to tell a Superman story, it's like, what is, bro? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I
I think
think
it's very interesting.
some decisions, come from a lot of thought, and some of them are instantly. And I think, from a creative standpoint, when you get a job like making a Superman movie and you are such a comic book head, especially given where Superman entertainment has just recently come out of, I think that that's not the kind of decision you come to immediately. I think that's a really difficult thought process because fans don't really know Superman properly or accurately because of the decisions of Zack Snyder and the DCEU. And you could say, you like that movie, that's fine, but you cannot, with a straight face, tell me that that is comic accurate. And I think that James Gunn understands, I hate to use like internet terminology, but he understands the assignment. He understands that, fans want comic accuracy now more than ever. And the comic accuracy debate really came from Zack Snyder's portrayal of Superman. I mean, that's really where it came from to begin with. So to do this movie justice, I was thinking about it, and, listen, Superman's not one of my favorite characters. I'm not a Superman hater by any means. I don't look at him the way I look at like Mr. Freeze, for example, but
Yeah.
or Chameleon. Who, by the way, I read some comics with Chameleon in it recently, and I was like, I might hate Chameleon as much as I hate. But fans aren't demanding Chameleon, so it's a little different. But anyway, Superman, like when you read All-Star Superman, it's such a great story that it's a great comic. It's definitely one of my favorite Superman comics, and it does such a good job of defining who Superman is. And I think that it's such a good choice by James Gunn because it's a story that Superman finds out he's dying. And before he dies, he wants to make sure he does a couple of last objectives before he leaves the world. And he wants to leave the world in a better place than he ever could have. And because of those and the things that he decides to do, it's a very definitive Superman story. And I think that's one of the reasons he chose All-Star Superman as, and listen, there's a couple other comics I think that were inspiring this, but whenever they tell you which comics are inspiring a movie, there's always one that sticks out. And in this case, it's obviously All-Star Superman. Now, sometimes I disagree when I watch the movie, like the Batman, when they were like, oh, this movie is inspired by Ego and other tales. And it's like, maybe the vibes of Batman, you could say that Batman is most inspired by Ego, but the story was all Last Halloween. And I don't even think that's debatable. So you can't really tell 100% until you see the movie. But I think it was a good choice because Superman's actions in that story make it a very definitive Superman story. And I think that that's important for this movie. And again, the hype for it is just different. Like people are talking about the hope and optimism and, like people are like, I see people saying like, we need that right now. And it's hard because I don't want to knock people feeling like they need something and they're getting it from a movie. Like if you need something and a movie could give it to you, that's great. But I'm never going to be like, oh, I like really needed something and this movie gave it to me. Like, listen, and I love movies, bro, but at the end of the day, it's a fictional story. So yeah, but I'm super pumped for Superman. I think it's going to be the box office success of the summer. I don't know if it's going to do $1 billion. I think $1 billion. I think we've went back and forth on this. I think $1 billion is very bullish, and I just think it's got a lot of challenges to overcome and a lot of competition. So I think it's going to do well, but $1 billion is a really big number to think of when you think of all the challenges it's facing at the same time.